I always believed I understood my son, William. After all, I'd raised him alone for most of his life since Robert, my husband, died in a tragic car accident when William was just 11. Now, as I sit in my quiet apartment, sifting through old photographs, a chilling realization washes over me. I was catastrophically, perhaps even fatally, wrong. I'm 75, and decades spent as a financial advisor for First Merchant Bank of Tuscaloosa have taught me two things above all else: the cold, hard logic of money, and the shocking ways it can corrupt. I've seen fortunes built on discipline and empires crumble from a single, foolish choice. My apartment, humble yet comfortable, with its view of the park, held the echoes of a life I thought was well lived, a testament to struggles overcome. Little did I know, the greatest challenge, the most profound betrayal, was yet to unfurl. When Robert died, he left us with a modest life insurance policy, enough for me to complete my finance degree. I invested wisely, watching my small nest egg grow. 5 years after the tragedy, when the real estate market soared, I sold our house and reinvested, building a comfortable future. Or so I believed. The first tremor of what lay ahead came when William announced his engagement to Penelope. To help them, I pushed myself, working extra hours to contribute to the down payment on their new home. I remember the pride on William's face as he took the keys, a pride I mistook for gratitude. 2 years later, Daisy arrived, a bright, inquisitive child with her grandfather's smile. She became my sunshine, a reason to visit, to share stories of constellations from my balcony, to bake blueberry muffins. William, however, had always been driven, focused on material ambition. He excelled, but I always sensed a coldness, a singular focus on personal gain. Penelope, with her perfect makeup and glacial smile, was his perfect match, equally ambitious, with an unnerving talent for convincing people they needed more than they could afford. My unease simmered beneath the surface, a silent alarm I chose to ignore. A year ago, I retired, my finances secure beyond anything I'd ever imagined. A good pension, Social Security, carefully cultivated investments, and a surprising inheritance from Robert's childless sister. The security was immense, almost overwhelming. What would I do with it? Travel was difficult with my aging knees. Expensive things held no allure. Every item in my apartment held a memory, a story. It was then, in that quiet contemplation, that an idea sparked, a grand gesture for William and his family. Their modest home in Forest Lake was becoming cramped, and the neighborhood, to my dismay, was slowly deteriorating. Daisy, now a teenager, deserved better. I began my research, meticulously studying the Tuscaloosa real estate market, poring over listings, driving through potential neighborhoods. Highland Park was too extravagant, but Northport, with its good schools and proximity to downtown, seemed promising. I took detailed notes, envisioning their perfect life. One morning, I called Maria Garcia, a realtor highly recommended by my friend Emily. "She's honest," Emily had insisted. "She won't sell you a house with a rotten foundation like some people." Maria's cheerful voice, "Good morning, Premier Real Estate," was a stark contrast to my carefully concealed agenda. "I'm looking for a house for my son and his family," I explained, giving her my budget and preferred areas. "How exciting!" she exclaimed, genuinely surprised. "It's not every day that parents buy houses for their grown children." "That's very generous of you, Mrs. Davis." We arranged to meet. I wore my best pantsuit, wanting to project an image of serious intent, a facade I maintained with practiced ease. Maria, a vibrant woman in her 40s with fiery red hair, greeted me with a dazzling smile, her office adorned with pictures of beaming families in front of their new homes. "So, Mrs. Davis," she began, opening her laptop, "let's be specific." We spent an hour discussing every detail: size, bedrooms, layout, age, distance to Daisy's school. I emphasized quality, a place where Daisy could grow up and create lasting memories. Maria took notes, her expression thoughtful. Then she paused, looking up. "Does your son know about your plans?" I shook my head, my secret held tight. "No, I want to surprise him." And frankly, I don't want William and Penelope to influence my choice. They tend to have grand ideas. Maria looked puzzled but agreed to my terms. The following weekend, Maria showed me 3 houses. The first was too dim, shrouded by tall trees. The second, on a busy street, filled me with dread at the thought of Daisy crossing it daily. The third was almost perfect, spacious, bright, with a beautiful backyard. But in the basement, I spotted damp patches. Is that normal? I asked, a flicker of doubt. Maria hesitated. It's not critical, but it's not perfect either. Perhaps a drainage issue. I shook my head, dismissing it. I didn't want William burdened with immediate repairs. The next week, we toured 5 more homes. One on Magnolia Drive captivated me. A classic 2-story with columns, a grand kitchen, a well-maintained backyard. For bedrooms, 3 baths, an office for William, and a playroom Daisy could transform into an art studio. What do you think? Maria asked. I like it, I admitted, but I need to know more about the foundation, the roof, the systems. Of course, she assured me. We'll have a full inspection. That evening, I pored over my financial spreadsheets. The Magnolia Drive house pushed my budget to the limit. It meant sacrificing my own future comfort, but wasn't that what all my saving was for? To provide for my family? The next day, I invited William to lunch. What's the matter, Mom? He asked, sensing my unusual tone. You sounded mysterious. I cut to the chase. William, I want to buy you a house. A new house. Bigger, in a better neighborhood. He stared at me, dumbfounded. A house, he whispered. Are you serious? Absolutely. I've already started looking. There's one on Magnolia Drive that seems perfect. He held up his hands, feigning protest. It's too much, Mom. We can't accept such a gift. Yet, his eyes glittered with an almost predatory hunger. You can and you will, I stated firmly. I want to do this, William. I want Daisy to have her own room, a safe place to grow. He mentioned Penelope, the need to discuss it. Good, I replied. I'd like both of you to see the house this weekend. He agreed, though his mind was clearly already in his new, grand life. On Saturday, Maria met us at the Magnolia Drive house. Penelope's excitement was immediate. My goodness, William, look at those columns, she gushed, squeezing his hand. This is a whole other level. They explored the house, Penelope marveling at granite countertops and a jacuzzi tub, William nodding approval at the spacious garage and study. What do you think? I asked. It's amazing, Winnie. Penelope breathed, using my childhood nickname for the first time in years. William, though more reserved, had eyes that sparkled. Seriously, Mom, this is too generous. We don't deserve this. Yes, you do, I countered. You're my family. On the drive home, they excitedly planned furniture, decor, and room arrangements. I smiled, seeing a spark of life in William the first hadn't witnessed in years. But the very next day, a subtle shift occurred. William called. The house on Magnolia Drive is gorgeous, he said, but since you're making such a generous gift, we want to be sure it's exactly what we need. We'd like to look at a few more houses for comparison. An alarm bell, faint but distinct, chimed in my mind. Yet, what could I say? It was their home, after all. The following weekend became a whirlwind of house viewings, 8 properties blurring into one. With each new home, William and Penelope's desires swelled. Yesterday's luxury became today's basic necessity. A house 20% over budget was now minimally acceptable. What about Highland neighborhood? Penelope asked, sipping coffee after another exhausting day. There are some great houses for sale there. My heart sank. Highland was the most expensive. Penelope, I sighed, I've stretched my budget to the limit. But you sold 8 stocks last year, didn't you? She countered, a sly smile playing on her lips. William said it was a good deal. I looked at my son, surprised. I hadn't shared those financial details with him. Yes, I did, and most of that money is already budgeted for the house. Well, maybe we can increase it a little? Penelope's voice was syrupy sweet. For Daisy's sake, Highland has such great schools. Annoyance flared, but I held it in check. Look, I said, opting for brutal honesty. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart, but there are limits. I can't buy you a palace. Penelope looked slapped, but William quickly interjected. Mother, we understand, and we're very grateful. Aren't we, Penelope? She forced a strained smile. Of course, Winnie. I'm sorry if I seemed ungrateful. The next day, Maria called with an urgent tone. A house on Wisteria Lane just came on the market. It's adorable, perfect for the Williams family. Houses like this don't stay long. 2 hours later, we stood outside the impressive Wisteria Lane home, bigger, more architecturally exquisite, with a prime location. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, an office, a game room, a huge kitchen, a backyard with a pool. That's him, Penelope whispered as we entered the grand hallway. William's eyes gleamed with visions of lavish parties. Daisy, seeing the spacious second-floor room with a bay window, gasped. Grandma, I could put my telescope in here. You should be able to see the stars perfectly. A fleeting moment of pure joy, a glimpse of happiness that made the sacrifices seem worthwhile. How much? William asked Maria. The price she quoted was 15% above my original budget. My heart clenched. All my retirement plans would need to be rewritten. Mom? William turned to me, his eyes pleading, greedy, like a child in a candy store. I glanced at Daisy, still animatedly planning her new room. Let's see what we can do, I finally said, the words heavy on my tongue. That evening, I meticulously recalculated, selling more stock, shifting investments. Yes, I could afford it, but it meant a far more modest life for me. No winter trips to the coast, cutting back on small pleasures. Was it worth it? I looked at Robert's picture, then at Daisy's imagined joy. Yes, I decided. It was worth it. The home buying process stretched into a month. Maria, surprisingly meticulous, insisted on a full home inspection, poring over paperwork, insurance history. I was grateful, despite William's constant urging to speed things up. Mom, we're wasting time. The house could be taken. Better to lose a house than buy a problem, I calmly replied, a phrase I'd uttered countless times to bank clients. The inspection revealed minor issues, quickly fixed by the sellers. The main systems, foundation, roof, electrical, were all rated good. Excellent condition for its age, the inspector, Mr. Patterson, assured me. But I always recommend maximum insurance, especially for homes of this size and age. I nodded, already planning for comprehensive coverage. The day of signing arrived, a crisp April morning. In the notary's office, I signed paper after paper, transferring the rights to a nearly $1 million house to my son. Then a new hurdle. Wait, William said, as we reached the insurance papers. It's too expensive. Basic insurance is enough. But Mr. Patterson recommended extended coverage, I argued. It covers a lot more risks. Mom, William lowered his voice, it's an extra $5,000 a year. The house is in excellent condition, you heard him. Exactly, he declared. We're not throwing money away on problems that don't exist. Basic is enough. I glanced at Maria, who subtly shrugged. Penelope avoided my gaze, inspecting her immaculate nails. Okay, I conceded, signing for basic insurance, a nagging unease growing within me, but I swallowed it down. Of course, Mom. William patted my hand, his mind clearly already adrift in dreams of his new home and celebratory parties. When all was done, Maria ceremoniously handed the keys to William. Congratulations on your new home, she beamed. Then, turning to me, you've given a wonderful gift, Mrs. Davis. A strange mixture of satisfaction and anxiety churned inside me. It was the most expensive gift I'd ever given, and a part of me whispered, have you made a terrible mistake? But then, William hugged me, a rare embrace, and whispered, thank you, Mom. In that moment, all doubt vanished. I had done the right thing. Or so I thought. The move consumed 2 weeks. I helped tirelessly, packing delicate items, organizing closets, making lists for the new house. Penelope, however, was strangely detached, absorbed in planning new furniture and curtains for the Wisteria Lane mansion, leaving the packing of their old home to Daisy and me. I can't wait until we finally move in, she declared one afternoon as Daisy and I carefully boxed books. I've already arranged for new furniture for the living room. The old one just won't look right in a house like this. But Mom, our furniture is still good, Daisy protested. And grandmother spent so much money on the house. Daisy, you're just a child, you don't understand, Penelope chided. A house like this demands the right furnishings. What will guests think? Daisy looked to me for support, but I could only shrug. It was their house now, their decisions. Finally, the last box was moved, the new furniture arranged, and the housewarming party loomed. William insisted on a grand affair, caterers, champagne, 50 guests. Mom, this is a big event in our lives, he declared. We have to make a big deal of it. I agreed, though I would have preferred a quiet family celebration. The guest list grew, encompassing William's colleagues, Penelope's friends, Daisy's teachers, even old bank acquaintances. William hired Tuscaloosa's finest caterers, Penelope a florist to adorn the house. Don't worry about the expense, Mom, William assured me when I voiced concern. Penelope and I are paying for everything. This is our home, our new beginning. The day of the housewarming dawned warm and sunny. I arrived early to help with last-minute preparations. The house was magnificent, new furniture gleaming, fresh flowers in every room, festive decorations everywhere. Daisy rushed to me, her face alight. Grandma, come see my room. It was everything she'd dreamed of, a telescope by the bay window, bookshelves lining the walls, a small desk for studying. She showed me her new four-poster bed, a housewarming gift from her parents. It's so nice here, Grandma, and it's all thanks to you. She hugged me tightly. I love you so much. I love you too, sweetheart, I whispered, tears pricking my eyes. Guests began to arrive around 3. William, beaming with pride, led tours of the house, accepting compliments. Penelope, in her new dress, radiated satisfaction as she accepted praise for her impeccable taste. I was introduced to each guest with the invariable phrase, "And this is my mother, Winifred." She gave us this house. This was followed by effusive exclamations about my extraordinary generosity. By 6, the house was a symphony of conversation and laughter. Waiters in white shirts circulated with drinks and appetizers. I sat in a quiet corner of the living room, observing the joyous spectacle, yet feeling a strange, hollow detachment. William was absorbed with his boss. Penelope flitted about, adjusting flowers and cushions, striving for perfection. Only Daisy periodically sought me out, sharing her friends' awe at the new house, asking if I needed anything. Around 7, William clinked a glass, commanding attention. Friends, I'd like to make a toast. He raised his champagne flute. To our new home, and to my incredibly generous mother, Winifred Davis, without whom none of this would be possible. All eyes turned to me, glasses raised. I offered an embarrassed smile, feeling awkward in the spotlight. Thank you, Mom, William continued, his gaze fixed on me. You've always supported us, and this house is the most amazing gift we've ever received. To Winifred, someone cheered, the chorus echoing. After the toast, Brenda Johnson, William's boss's elegant wife, joined me. What an amazing gift you've given your son, she said, sitting beside me. Not many parents can afford that. I've been lucky in life, I replied modestly, and I wanted to share it with my family. Do you live alone? She asked, her gaze appraising. Yes, I have a small apartment nearby. Have you thought about moving in with your son? There'd probably be room in a house that big. I shook my head. No, I value my independence. Besides, a young family needs its own space. A wise decision, she nodded, although of course, as you get older, it's harder to live alone. I wanted to assert my independence, even at 75, but William interrupted, whisking Brenda away to her husband. The party continued, slowly winding down. By 10, only William and Penelope's closest friends remained, 2 couples they often socialized with. I felt exhaustion creeping in and decided to leave. William, I walked over to my son, who was refilling glasses in the kitchen. I think I should go home. It's been wonderful, but I'm tired. Already? He looked surprised. Stay a little longer. Robert and Sarah just started talking about their trip to Europe. No, honey, I really must. I kissed his cheek. Tell your friends I appreciate the company. Okay, he sighed. I'll walk you to the door. I said my goodbyes to Daisy, who was heading to bed, to Penelope, who barely acknowledged me, engrossed in conversation with her friend, and to the other guests. At the door, William gave me a hug. "Thank you again, Mom, for everything." "You're welcome, sweetheart. I'm glad you're happy in your new home." He escorted me down the steps to my car. As I reached for the driver's side door, I remembered the pie. "Oh, I forgot my baking mold in the kitchen." "Wait, I'll just grab it quickly." "No need, Mom, he tried to stop me." "I'll bring it back tomorrow." No, it'll only take a minute. I need it for tomorrow's baking." I walked back to the house, quietly letting myself in through the front door, not wanting to draw attention. Voices drifted from the kitchen: William, Penelope, and their friends. I was almost at the door when I heard my name and instinctively froze. Winnie almost cried when they thanked her. It was Penelope's voice, slightly slurred with alcohol. God, it was like she was performing some sacred ritual. Laughter erupted. "Hey, easy there." William chuckled, though there was no real admonishment in his tone. She did give us most of her savings, after all. What else is she going to do with it? Penelope snorted. It's not like she's off to a Miami resort at her age. At least this way, she gets to see how it's spent in her lifetime. More laughter. Weren't you worried she'd want to live with you? A male voice I didn't recognize asked. My mother-in-law keeps dropping hints. Oh, Winnie's far too proud for that, Penelope replied, a sneer in her voice. She'd rather die than admit she needs help. Besides, we made it perfectly clear that's not an option. How so? A female voice asked curiously. Oh, the usual excuses, Penelope said, a feigned weariness. We need our own space. Daisy needs her own room to study, blah, blah, blah. In reality, the last thing we need is an old woman watching our every move in our own home. My blood ran cold, draining from my face. An old woman. Was that truly how they saw me? Can you believe she even tried to insist on some super expensive insurance? William chimed in. Like the house was going to fall apart tomorrow. I could barely talk her out of it. That's smart, the man's voice approved. Why throw money away? Exactly, William exclaimed. Now the money will be used for new patio furniture. Penelope already picked out a great set. I took a step back, desperate to hear no more, but my hand brushed against a vase on the console. It wobbled precariously, and though I caught it just in time, the small noise was enough. Who's there? William shouted from the kitchen. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and walked into the kitchen, attempting to project an air of calm dignity. Sorry, I forgot my baking dish, I said, gesturing towards the ceramic pan on the counter. A thick silence descended. Penelope froze, a glass held halfway to her lips, her face ashen. William looked like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. The other two couples, Robert and Sarah, Kevin and Lisa, shuffled awkwardly. Mom, William began, but I raised my hand, stopping him. Don't, I said, my voice eerily calm despite the volcanic rage churning within me. I heard the whole thing. You misunderstood. Penelope interjected quickly, her voice laced with desperation. We were just joking, really. I met her gaze squarely. It sounded very believable. I picked up my baking dish and turned to leave. Mom, wait. William grabbed my arm. Let's talk about it. Talk about what, William? I turned back to him, my voice sharper than I intended. About how much you despise the old lady who bought you this house. Or about how clever you were to refuse the insurance I recommended. He released my arm, his face darkening. You were eavesdropping. No, I countered. I came to get my things, and I happened to hear the truth. Isn't that ironic? Penelope set her glass down, her face hardening. You know what, Winnie? Yes, we were telling the truth. You bought us this house, and we're grateful, but that doesn't give you the right to interfere in our lives or tell us how to live them. Penelope. William warned, but she waved him off. No, let her know. We're tired of your constant advice and judgmental looks. You bought us a house? Great, thank you. But it's our house now, and we're going to live in it the way we want. I stared at her, stunned, not so much by the words themselves as by the sheer venom with which they were delivered. I've never tried to control your life, I said, my voice barely a whisper. But you wanted to. Penelope parried. Admit it. You hoped this gift would give you influence, that we would be eternally grateful and listen to your advice, blah. Pen, that's enough. William interjected again, but his voice lacked conviction. She turned to him. What? You said the same thing yourself just yesterday. How she's manipulating you through Daisy. How she's trying to tell us what to do with the house. William looked trapped, caught between two opposing forces. He glanced at me, then at Penelope, and in that fleeting moment, I saw him make a choice. Mom, he sighed, maybe we do need some space. We just moved in, trying to get settled. Maybe we shouldn't come over for a few weeks. I looked at my son, the man I'd raised alone, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, and I didn't recognize him. Did you? My voice, surprisingly, remained calm. Then speak plainly, William. What do you want? He avoided my gaze. I think we need time to get used to a new home, a new life. Without me, I clarified. Temporarily, he looked up. Just a few weeks. Penelope snorted. Come on, Webbs, tell her the truth. She turned to me, her eyes glittering with a mixture of champagne and anger. Thanks for the house, Winnie, really, thanks a lot. But now we don't need a burden like you anymore. Penelope. William exclaimed, but he made no move to protect me. I stood there, clutching my ceramic baking dish like a shield, and something inside me shattered. Not my heart. It had been broken many times in my long life. No, this was the final thread, snapping, releasing me from the illusion that my son, deep down, was still the boy I loved unconditionally. I see, I said at last, my voice flat. In that case, I won't bother you. I turned and walked toward the exit, feeling the burning stares of everyone in the room. At the door, I paused, and without turning around, added, I hope you will be happy in this house. I truly do. I walked out into the cool night, closing the door softly behind me. No one followed. No one tried to stop me. Not even William. As I got into my car, I placed the baking mold on the passenger seat and gazed at the house. Big, beautiful, glowing with warmth, the house I had bought for my family, having given away most of my savings. The house in which I had just been branded a burden. I started the engine and slowly pulled out of the driveway. The tears I had suppressed in the kitchen now streamed freely down my cheeks. I didn't wipe them away. There was no one to witness my weakness. The 15-minute drive to my apartment felt like an eternity. I parked, grabbed my baking mold, and ascended to the second floor. Silence and darkness greeted me. I flicked on the hallway light and saw my reflection, an older woman, eyes red, an expression of profound pain etched on her face. A burden, I whispered, staring at my reflection. That's what I've become to my son. I walked into the living room and sank into a chair, still wearing my coat, the baking mold clutched in my hands, unsure where to put it in this suddenly foreign apartment. All my life, I had prided myself on my strength, my independence. I had raised my son alone, built a career, secured a comfortable old age. And now, at 75, I sat alone in an empty apartment, rejected by the only man I had truly lived for. It was the longest night of my life. The tears had stopped, leaving only a vast emptiness. I sat in that chair until dawn, staring out the window, replaying every decision, every sacrifice that had led me to this desolate moment. When the first rays of sunlight pierced the room, I finally rose, removed my coat, and went to the bathroom. Staring at my tired face in the mirror, I made a silent vow. This was the last time I would allow my son to inflict such pain. The morning after the housewarming party brought with it a pounding headache and a profound sense of disorientation. Sleep had been elusive, my mind relentlessly replaying the events of the previous night. Penelope's cruel words, William's complicity, the crushing realization that my family saw me only as a burden. I brewed a strong pot of tea, the remedy my mother had taught me for all adversity, and sat by the window, watching Tuscaloosa slowly awaken. People rushed to work, neighborhood children waited for school buses, the mailman began his rounds. A normal day for everyone but me. The phone rang. Daisy. My hand froze above the receiver. What would I tell my granddaughter? How would I explain that her parents had effectively exiled me from their lives? The phone rang and rang, finally going to voicemail. Grandma, it's me. Daisy's voice was soft, barely a whisper. I just wanted to tell you that I love you. Mom and Dad won't tell me what happened yesterday, but I know something did. Just know that I will always love you. The tears I'd held back all morning burst forth. This girl, only 16, seemed wiser and kinder than her own parents. I didn't call back. I wasn't ready to explain. Instead, I sent a text, I love you too, sweetheart. Always. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. The next few days blurred into a strange haze. I forced myself through my usual routine, breakfast, a walk in the park, reading, dinner, but every action felt mechanical, meaningless. Every 15 minutes, I checked my phone, hoping for an apologetic call from William. None came. On the third day, Emily called. Winnie, what's going on? I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. I sighed. Emily knew me too well for a superficial everything's fine. William and Penelope, I began. They've cut me out of their lives. What? After you bought them a house? I recounted everything. The party, the overheard conversation, Penelope's venomous words. That ungrateful. Emily exclaimed. And William, how could he let her talk to you like that? He didn't just let her, I said bitterly. He agreed with her. Winnie, darling, I'll be right over. No need, I'll manage. Nonsense. I'll be there in 20 minutes with a bottle of wine and a chocolate cake. Emily was true to her word. 20 minutes later, she stood at my door, grocery bags in hand. She hugged me without a word, and that embrace was exactly what I needed. We sat on the balcony, drinking wine at 3 p.m., a luxury I hadn't indulged in since college, talking about life, children, disappointments. You know, Emily said, pouring herself a second glass, maybe it's for the best. How could losing a son be for the best? I raised an eyebrow. You didn't lose your son, Winnie. You just saw his true face. Now you can stop wasting energy on people who don't appreciate you and start living for yourself. At 75, why not? My father started learning Spanish at 80 and was fluent 3 years later. Age is just a number. I shook my head, but a kernel of truth resonated within her words. All my life, I had put William's needs before my own. Perhaps it was time to consider myself. The next day, I ventured out for a longer walk. The April sun warmed my skin as I headed towards Riverwalk Park, a small oasis 10 minutes from my apartment. I sat on a bench, watching ducks glide on the Black Warrior River, when an elderly man, leaning on a cane, slowly approached. Something about his gait felt familiar. Mrs. Davis? He stopped before me. Winifred Davis? I looked at his face and recognized Arthur Smith, the lawyer who had handled Robert's affairs after his death. Mr. Smith. I smiled. What a surprise. Call me Arthur, please. We're old enough for such formalities. He grinned. May I sit down? I moved over. Arthur carefully sat beside me. I live not far from here, he said, gesturing to an apartment complex. Moved in after Martha died. The house was too big for one old man. I nodded, remembering his wife's passing a few years prior. I'm sorry for your loss. It's been 5 years, he sighed. But thank you. How are you doing? How's William? Hearing my son's name, I tensed. He's fine. Just moved into a new house. That's great, Arthur nodded. And you? You look. I'm sorry to be blunt, but you look upset. His kind eyes and genuine concern broke through my defenses. To be honest, it hasn't been the best time. I hadn't planned to reveal everything, but the words flowed out. Arthur listened intently, nodding, occasionally frowning, never interrupting. It's unfortunate, he said when I finished, but not uncommon. I've seen many families destroyed by money and real estate. It's not about money, I countered. It's about respect, about basic human gratitude. You're right, he nodded, and that's the tragedy. Money can be regained, but respect, once lost, is rarely regained. We talked for almost 2 hours. Arthur spoke of his retirement, his grandchildren who lived far away, his books, his new hobby of growing orchids. You should come see my collection sometime, he offered as we parted. If you're interested, of course. I'd love to, I surprised myself by saying. When was the last time I'd accepted an invitation from a man, especially after only a few hours? That's fine, he smiled. I'm often here in the mornings. Why don't we meet at the same time tomorrow? I said yes, and for the first time in days, I felt a flicker of lightness. That evening, Daisy called. This time, I answered. Grandma, I'm so glad you picked up. How are you? I'm fine, sweetheart. How are you? I'm fine, she said quietly. Grandma, what happened at the party? My parents won't tell me, just that you two had a fight. I sighed. How to explain adult complexities to a 16-year-old? Your parents and we have different views on some things. We need time to think. Is this about the house? I heard an astute insight in her young voice. Partly, I admitted. But don't worry, it will get better. I miss you, she said softly, and I don't like what they did. Do you know what happened? I tensed. Not everything. I heard them talking in the kitchen. Mom said something mean, and you left. Is that true? Yes, something like that. I skirted the details. But that's between me and your parents. You don't have to take sides. But I am on your side, she exclaimed. You bought us this house, and they should be grateful. Daisy, listen to me, I said gravely. I don't want you to fight with your parents because of me. Promise me you won't. She reluctantly agreed, and we talked of school, projects, friends, summer plans. After our call, I stared at my phone for a long time. William didn't call, didn't text. It was as if I had ceased to exist for him the moment their new front door closed. The next few days passed in a relative calm. Arthur and I met in the park, walking, talking about books, politics, life. He showed me his small but impressive orchid collection. I took him to dinner, cooking only for myself no more. Emily noticed the change. You look better, she said during lunch in town. You're even smiling. I'm getting used to the new reality, I replied, and maybe Arthur's helping a little. Arthur? She raised an eyebrow. Who's Arthur? I told her about my new acquaintance. Emily grinned. Winifred Davis, you surprise me. Is there really a man in your life? Don't exaggerate. I felt a blush creep up my neck. We're just friends. Of course, Emily winked. Just friends always starts that way. I shook my head, but couldn't help smiling. At 75, was I truly blushing like a schoolgirl? On the 7th day after the housewarming party, I was unconsciously counting the days, like marking time to an inevitable disaster. The phone rang. I was preparing lunch and didn't immediately check the caller ID. Hello? Mom? William's voice was tense, almost panicked. Mom, you have to help. I froze, knife in hand. 7 days of silence, and now this desperate plea. William, what's wrong? The house, Mom. There's a problem with the house. Slowly, I put the knife down, wiped my hands, and sank into a kitchen chair. What kind of trouble? The inspectors are here. His breath was ragged, as if he'd been running. They found serious problems with the foundation. Cracks shifting. I don't understand all the terminology, but they're saying the house is unsafe to live in. We're facing eviction, Mom. I sat in stunned silence, processing. The pre-purchase inspection showed no foundation issues. How? When did this happen? I finally asked. This morning. A neighbor noticed cracks in the driveway and called them. They inspected the foundation and found serious defects. They say part of the house could collapse at any moment. What about the insurance? I already knew the answer, but I asked anyway. That's just it. William's voice broke into a shout. Basic insurance doesn't cover foundation problems. If we'd gotten the extended coverage you suggested. He trailed off. As I advised. I repeated slowly. Yes, Mom, you were right. I was wrong. He sounded hysterical. But now isn't the time. We need help. The repairs will cost hundreds of thousands, and we don't have that kind of money. I closed my eyes. A small, dark corner of my heart, a part one wasn't proud of, felt a grim satisfaction. Justice. But the larger part, the mother I had always been, ached for her son, for her granddaughter. What do you want me to do, William? Help us, Mom, he begged. You're the only one who can. You have savings, investments. Most of which I used to buy this house, I reminded him. I know, but there must be something left. Or you could take out a loan against your apartment. Anything, Mom. We can't lose the house. I listened to his desperate pleas, remembering the words. We don't need a burden like you anymore, and William's silent agreement. William, I said at last, my voice firm, I can't help you. What? He sounded disbelieving. What do you mean you can't? I spent almost all my savings on the house. What's left, I need to live on. But, Mom, his voice trembled. We're going to lose the house. We'll be on the street. Not on the street, I corrected him. You still have the old house. You haven't sold it yet, have you? No, but that's not it. We can't go back to that doghouse after the fancy mansion I gave you, I finished for him. Silence. I could hear his ragged breathing. Mom, he began again, softer now. I know what we did was wrong. What Penn said was awful. I should have stopped her. I'm sorry, I really am. You are. Anger flared within me. You're only sorry because you want my money, William. If the house was fine, you wouldn't have called me. Admit it. Another silence. Mom, please. For Daisy's sake. She loves this house, her new room. Don't use my granddaughter. My voice was icy. It's beneath even you. What do you want me to do? Desperation laced his words. I'll apologize. Penelope and I will both apologize. We were wrong, terribly wrong. You can move in with us if you want. We have plenty of room. I gave a bitter laugh. A week ago, a burden. Now, an invitation to live with them. William, listen to me carefully, I said calmly. I won't give you any money. Not now, not later. I've already given you almost everything I had, and all I got in return was contempt. It won't happen again. But, Mom, I'm not finished, I interrupted him. The problem with the house is your problem. You're a grown man. You can decide for yourself. Sell the house at a loss, go back to the old house, take out a loan. I don't care. But don't come to me for money. You can't do that. He was almost shouting. You're my mother. Yes, I am your mother, and I've loved you all your life, William. But love doesn't mean letting you use me. It's over. You're going to regret this. His voice turned menacing. When we're on the street, when Daisy loses her home, you'll regret it. Maybe I agreed, but not as much as I regretted giving my house to people who thought I was a burden. I pressed the end call button and placed the phone on the table. My hands shook, my heart pounded, yet in a strange, profound way, I felt stronger than I had in years. The phone immediately rang again. William. I rejected the call. It rang again and again. I silenced it and returned to making dinner. An hour later, a knock echoed at my door. Through the peephole, I saw William, disheveled and agitated. I didn't answer. Mom, he knocked again and again. Mom, I know you're in there. Open the door. I sat in a chair, away from the door, and waited. He kept knocking, calling, even threatening to call the police. Finally, after almost 20 agonizing minutes, the knocking stopped. I checked the peephole again. The hallway was empty. Back in the living room, a message glowed on my phone from Arthur. How about a walk tonight? The weather promises to be lovely. I smiled, a genuine smile, and replied, I'd love to. Meet me at the park at 6. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. Free of manipulation. Free of guilt. Free of the need to always be a good mother, even when my son was not a good son. Perhaps Emily was right. Perhaps at 75, everything truly was just beginning. After William's desperate call and his futile visit, I was in a strange emotional limbo. Despite my firm resolve not to yield to his manipulation, my maternal heart still ached with an unfamiliar pang. I paced my apartment, my mind racing through endless what-ifs. What if the house was truly dangerous? What if Daisy was hurt? How could I live with that? By the time I met Arthur in the park that evening, my nerves were frayed. He noticed immediately. Winifred, what's wrong? He asked as we walked slowly along the river. You look worried. I recounted William's call, the dire situation with the house, and my resolute refusal to help. I did the right thing, I said, trying to convince myself as much as him, but I still feel awful. Arthur stroked his beard thoughtfully. You know, Winifred, in 40 years of practicing law, I've seen a lot of family drama over real estate. And I can tell you one thing. If you agreed to help now, it would set a dangerous precedent. What do you mean? Your son would realize that no matter how he treats you, you'll always be there for him in a crisis. That's not help, Winifred, that's codependency. I nodded. Arthur had articulated a truth I had feared to admit. But what about Daisy? I asked, my voice catching. She's innocent, but she'll suffer because of adult decisions. Daisy is 16, right? He replied. She's old enough to understand the consequences of her parents' actions. And from what you've told me, she's a smart girl. I smiled, remembering Daisy's unwavering loyalty, even as a small child. Yes, she's special. Then trust her, Arthur said, squeezing my hand lightly. She'll find a way to stay in touch, despite any obstacles. His touch was unexpected, yet comforting. The tension in my shoulders eased. You know, Arthur continued, when my daughter Eleanor divorced, her ex-husband tried to turn her children against her. He used manipulation, guilt. But children see more than we realize. Over time, they figure out who truly loves them selflessly. I hope you're right, I sighed. I just don't want to lose Daisy. You won't, Arthur said confidently. True love always finds a way. We reached a small clearing overlooking the river and sat on a bench. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the water a shimmering gold. It's beautiful, I whispered. Yes, it is, Arthur agreed, but he wasn't looking at the river. He was looking at me. I felt a blush creep up my neck. At 75, who would have thought? The next morning, the phone's insistent ringing woke me. I reluctantly reached for my nightstand, bracing myself for William's name, but it was Daisy. Grandma? Her voice was muffled, as if she were still buried under blankets. Are you awake? No, sweetie, I lied, sitting up. What happened? My parents were fighting all night. Dad said you refused to help with the house, and Mom called you. She stammered. Anyway, she said a lot of mean things, and then Daddy started blaming her for being mean to you at the housewarming party. I closed my eyes. The last thing I wanted was for Daisy to be caught in the crossfire. I'm sorry you had to hear that, I said. Adults sometimes say terrible things in anger. It's not just that, Daisy continued. We had some people over yesterday to look at the house. One of them said it was dangerous to be there. Mom was crying, and Dad was yelling into the phone at someone. Were you told to move out? I asked, my heart clenching. Not yet. But Dad said if renovations don't start soon, we'll have to. A pause. Grandma, why won't you help? I took a deep breath. How to explain the complex dynamics of adult relationships to a teenager? Daisy, it's not that simple. I've already spent most of my savings buying that house. What's left, I need to live on. But you have your apartment, she argued. You could sell it and move in with us. Dad said he offered you that. I smiled bitterly. Of course, William would frame it that way. Daisy, something happened between your parents and me at the housewarming party. Something that makes it impossible for me to live with you. What was it? She insisted. Mom said something rude, I know, but can you just forgive and forget? Sometimes words cut too deeply, I said quietly, and it's not just words. It's actions. Attitudes. Your parents made it clear they didn't want me in their lives until they needed money. Daisy was silent for a few seconds. But I want you in my life, she said finally. It's not fair that I can't see you because of their fight. You can always call me, I assured her. And when you're an adult, you can make your own decisions. But that's 2 more years, she exclaimed, despair in her voice. I can't wait that long. Look, I said, making a swift decision. Maybe we could see each other sometimes after school or on weekends. Just don't tell your parents if they object. Really? She sounded a little brighter. Would you be okay with that? Of course I would. You're my granddaughter, and nothing will change that. I love you, Grandma, she said. And I'm ashamed of my parents. You don't have to be ashamed of them, I said. Just be yourself, Daisy. That's all I ask. After our conversation, I sat in the kitchen for a long time, pondering. Was I right to encourage secret meetings with Daisy? Was I damaging her relationship with William and Penelope? But was it fair to deprive a child of her grandmother's company due to adult conflict? The doorbell interrupted my thoughts. Penelope stood on the doorstep, impeccably dressed and made up, as always, though dark circles under her eyes hinted at her fatigue. Winnie, she said, with a strange, strained smile, can I come in? I stepped back, silently allowing her entry. Penelope walked into the living room, pausing, surveying it as if she'd never been there before, despite dozens of previous visits. "Sit down," I offered. "Would you like some tea?" "No, thank you." She perched on the edge of the couch, her back unnaturally rigid. "I came to talk about the house." "I thought so," I nodded, sitting opposite her. "William told me about the foundation problems." "Yes, the situation is complicated." She ran a hand through her hair, a nervous gesture I'd never seen from her before. "The engineers say the house is built on unstable ground, underground water erosion, the foundation's cracking. It needs major repairs. And the insurance doesn't cover it," I finished for her. "No," she shook her head. "Basic insurance only covers fire, flood, and external damage. You needed extended coverage for the foundation, just like you advised." Penelope pressed her lips together. "Yes, you were right. We should have listened. But that's not what this is about. We need help, Winnie." "I already told William the first can't help," I said calmly. "I simply don't have that kind of money." "But you have this apartment," she countered. "You could take out a loan against it, or sell it and live with us." "William agrees. We'll set up a guest room just for you." I gave her a long, hard look. "Penelope, a week ago you called me a burden and said you didn't need me anymore. And now you want me to move in with you." She lowered her eyes. "I was wrong. I said terrible things in the heat of, I don't know what, pride, perhaps, or greed. But I'm sorry, truly sorry." "Because you want my money," I said, "not because you're truly sorry. It's not fair." She raised her head, tears glistening. "Yes, we need the money, but that doesn't mean I don't regret what I said. I was awful to you, Winnie, and I'm ashamed." I sighed. Penelope had always been a skilled actress. How many times had she charmed customers into buying furniture they couldn't afford? "Even if I believed you, Pen, it wouldn't change anything. I can't help you with the renovations. My finances are limited. But you can sell the apartment." She raised her voice again, then pulled herself together. "I just don't understand why you don't want to help your only son." "Because I already have," I said firmly. "I bought you a house you didn't bother to properly insure, despite my advice." Penelope stood, her face flushed with anger. "You're just getting back at us. You're using this situation to punish us for what we said." I stood as well. "No, Penelope. I'm just not letting myself be used anymore. And if you call that revenge, that's your right." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "You're going to regret this, Winnie. When we lose the house, when Daisy's homeless, you'll regret it." "You still have the old house," I reminded her. "No one's going to be on the street." "You know very well we can't go back there," she exclaimed. "Not after living here." "It's your choice," I shrugged, "like so many other decisions you've made." She looked at me with such venomous hatred that for a moment, I felt a flicker of fear. "You don't know what we're capable of yet," she hissed and walked out, slamming the door. I sank back into the chair, my hands trembling. Penelope's threat hung in the air, ominous. What did she mean? What were they capable of? That evening, I recounted Penelope's visit to Arthur. We sat in his cozy apartment, surrounded by books, the orchids on his windowsill blooming in vibrant pinks and purples. "Did she threaten you?" He frowned, listening to Penelope's parting words. "Not directly," I shook my head, but it sounded menacing. "Would you like me to talk to them?" he offered. "As a lawyer, I could explain that any attempts to pressure you could have serious consequences." "Thank you, but no," I smiled faintly. "It would only complicate things further. I can handle it." He covered my hand with his. "I know you will. You're a strong woman, Winifred. Stronger than you think." The warmth and admiration in his eyes made me feel 20 years younger. "You know," he said after a quiet moment, "when Margaret died, I thought my life was over. 43 years together, and suddenly I was alone. I didn't know how to go on, why I should even wake up." I nodded, understanding his profound grief. Robert's loss had felt similar. But then I realized, he continued, that life goes on, even when it seems impossible. And it can be filled with new meanings, new relationships. He squeezed my hand gently, and I didn't pull away. The next day, William called. His voice was tired, defeated. "Mom, I'm calling to say we're moving out of the house. The engineers say it's dangerous, especially with rain expected." I'm sorry to hear that, I replied sincerely. Where are you moving? Back to the old house, he sighed. We have no choice. The realtor says the Wisteria Lane house can be sold for demolition, but we'll only get a fraction of its value. I understand, I said, unsure what else to offer. Penelope said she came to see you, he continued after a pause, and that you refused to help. Yes, I confirmed, but not because I don't want to, William. It's because I can't. You could have sold the apartment, he said, the accusatory tone creeping back, if you really wanted to help. And where would I live? I asked. With us, of course. There's room in the old house. I shook my head, though he couldn't see it. No, William. After all that's been said, it's impossible. So you won't forgive us? He sounded resentful now. Will you hold a grudge for the rest of your life? It's not about resentment, I tried to say calmly. It's about respect, trust, reciprocity. It's all broken, and not by me. But we're family, he insisted. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It does, I replied. That's why I'm so hurt by your betrayal. He exhaled noisily. Okay, Mom, I get it. You don't want to help. But don't at least forbid Daisy from seeing you. She misses you. I've never forbidden her, I objected. On the contrary. You could have forbidden her to see me. We're not the monsters you think we are, he said, his voice weary. Daisy loves you, and we will not interfere with your communication. Thank you, I said, surprised by his sudden concession. You're welcome, he said quietly. Mom, no matter what, I still love you, and I hope that someday you'll be able to forgive us. After that conversation, I felt emotionally drained. His final words of love, were they sincere, or just another subtle manipulation? And did it really matter? I decided a walk would clear my head. May was in full bloom, Tuscaloosa awash in the heady scents of azaleas, magnolias, and jasmine. In the park, I met Arthur, who seemed to be waiting for me. I was hoping to see you here, he smiled. Are you all right? I told him about William's call, his sudden humility, his declaration of love. Do you think he was sincere? Arthur asked. I don't know, I shook my head. Part of me wants to believe him, that deep down he's still the boy I raised. But the other part suspects this is just another tactic. Especially his sudden acceptance of my seeing Daisy. He was so against it before. Arthur considered this. Perhaps he truly realized his mistake. Losing the house was a severe blow. It might have forced him to reevaluate his priorities. Or, I added, he simply realized that threats and accusations weren't working and decided to try a different approach. Either way, Arthur said, be careful. Don't make hasty decisions based on emotion. I won't, I promised. I've had enough of rash behavior. The next day, Daisy called, asking if she could come over after school. Dad said it was okay, she added, a note of surprise in her voice. Can you believe that? Yes, it's unexpected, I said. Sure, come over. I'll bake your favorite blueberry muffins. Daisy arrived at 3, backpack slung over her shoulder, a brightly colored scarf around her neck. I noticed the worry in her eyes. What's wrong, sunshine? I asked as we sat in the kitchen with tea and muffins. We're moving back to the old house, she said. The workers are already packing. I know, your father told me. Is it temporary? I don't think so, she shook her head. Dad says the house will have to be sold for demolition, and we don't have the money to renovate it. I'm so sorry, Daisy, I said, covering her hand with mine. I know how much you loved your new room. Yes, it was wonderful, Daisy sighed. But it's not just that. My parents fight all the time. Mom blames Dad for not listening to you about the insurance, and Dad says she ruined it with her rude words at the housewarming party. Don't take it personally, I advised. Adults often blame others when things go wrong. But what if they get divorced? Tears welled in her eyes. Mommy said yesterday that she couldn't live like that anymore. I put my arm around her, feeling her tremble. Daisy, listen to me. Whatever happens between your parents, it's not your fault, and they'll both always love you, whether they're together or not. I know, she blew her nose. It's just that everything was so good in the new house, and now it's going to be different. I finished for her. But it doesn't have to be worse. Sometimes change opens up new possibilities. She nodded, though my words offered little comfort. Grandma, she said after a pause, can't you really help with the house repairs? I sighed. Of course, William and Penelope had spoken to her about it. I can't, sunshine. I spent almost all my savings to buy the house. What's left, I need to live on. What about your apartment? She looked at me. Dad said you could sell it and move in with us. And live with people who called me a burden? I shook my head. Daisy, there are lines you can't cross. Your parents crossed them. She lowered her eyes. I understand. It's just, I wish things could go back to the way they were. Me too, I admitted. But sometimes we have to accept reality as it is, not as we'd like it to be. We talked for another 2 hours. Daisy spoke of school, her projects, her new friends. I listened, happy that despite all the turmoil, my granddaughter remained cheerful and curious. When it was time for her to leave, she gave me a fierce hug. I love you, Grandma, and I'll keep coming, even if we move back to the old house. I love you too, sweetheart, I said, kissing her forehead. And I'll always be happy to see you. After Daisy left, I sat by the window for a long time, contemplating our conversation. The house problem was clearly straining William and Penelope's marriage. A part of me felt grimly satisfied by the poetic justice, but another part worried about Daisy, caught in the middle. That evening, I called Arthur and told him about Daisy's visit. They're using the child to pressure you, he said indignantly. That's low. I'm not sure they were setting her up on purpose, I countered. Daisy's a smart girl. She asks her own questions. Perhaps, he conceded, but it's strange that your son suddenly allows her to see you, and then she starts talking about selling the apartment. I wondered too. Arthur was right. The coincidence was suspicious. What should I do? I asked. I don't want to push Daisy away, but I also don't want her used as a pawn in this game. Keep talking to her, Arthur advised, but be careful what you say and remember, your decision not to help with the repairs is the right one. Don't let them manipulate you through your granddaughter. I nodded, grateful for his steady encouragement. A month passed since William and his family had returned to the old house. May had given way to June, bringing with it the sweltering humidity of an Alabama summer. I sat on my balcony, sipping iced tea, reflecting on how much my life had changed. Daisy visited twice a week, Tuesdays after school, Saturday mornings. We baked muffins, read books, or simply talked about everything under the sun. She updated me on the situation at home. The tension between her parents hadn't vanished, but it was less overt. They were adjusting to life in the old house, which now felt cramped and uncomfortable after the sprawling Wisteria Lane mansion. Mommy's still mad at Daddy about the insurance, Daisy confided during one visit, and Daddy's mad at Mommy because she insulted you, but they don't yell anymore. They're just quiet. I nodded, knowing this lull might be temporary. Deep cracks in a relationship don't simply disappear. William had called me only once that month to inform me they'd found a buyer for the Wisteria Lane house, a construction company that planned to demolish it and build 2 new homes on the lot. We'll get less than half of what it was worth, he said bitterly. But we have no choice. The bank is demanding we pay off the mortgage. I'm sorry to hear that, I replied sincerely. You are. Doubt laced his voice. Sometimes I think you're glad we're unhappy. William, I sighed, I'm your mother. How can I be happy about your problems? My inability to help financially doesn't mean I don't care. I'm sorry, he paused. I'm just angry at the world right now. Especially at myself. If I'd listened to you about the insurance. What's done is done, I said. Now we have to move on. Yes, he agreed. Penelope suggested selling the old house too and buying a newer one in a different neighborhood. A fresh start. I think that's a good idea, I said, surprised by his sudden candor. Sometimes a change of place helps to turn the page. Maybe he was silent again. Mom, can you ever forgive us? Me? I closed my eyes, a lump forming in my throat. How many times had I imagined this conversation, rehearsed my responses? I've already forgiven you, William, I said finally. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, or going back to the way things were. Some words and actions can't be undone. I understand, his voice grew quieter. I was just thinking, maybe someday. Let's just focus on the present, I suggested. On keeping Daisy well, on getting you back on your feet. You're right, he agreed. As always. After that call, I sat in silence for a long time, trying to untangle my emotions. Had I truly forgiven my son, or had I simply said what I felt I needed to say? And what, now, was our relationship? Arthur had become an indispensable part of my life. We met almost daily, walking in the park, going to movies, sharing meals. He was an attentive listener, a wise confidant, and, to my surprise, a deeply caring companion. Our relationship bloomed slowly, with the cautious tenderness of people our age who have known both the exhilaration of love and the sting of loss. "You look happier," Emily observed when we met at a cafe. "This Arthur thing has done you good." I smiled, a blush rising to my cheeks. "He's a good man. Kind, smart, with a wonderful sense of humor. And he's clearly in love with you," she winked. "I saw the way he looked at you when you walked by the library last Thursday." "Don't exaggerate," I shook my head, but a pleasant warmth spread through me. "We're just enjoying each other's company." Of course, Emily grinned. "Anyway, I'm happy for you, Winnie. After everything with William and that unfortunate house, you deserve a little happiness." That same night, Arthur took me to dinner at the River, one of Tuscaloosa's finest restaurants. He seemed unusually nervous, rubbing his napkin, dropping his fork several times. "Is everything okay?" I asked when dessert arrived. "Yes, fine," he coughed. "It's just, I have something for you." He produced a small box from his pocket, and my heart gave a strange flutter. "Don't worry," he chuckled, seeing my expression. "It's not what you think." "Not yet, anyway." He opened the box. Inside lay a delicate silver pendant, an orchid. "I saw it in an antique store and immediately thought of you," he said. "Dainty, unique, beautiful, even in your old age." I laughed. "I'm not sure about the old age compliment, but the pendant truly is beautiful. May I?" He rose and came to my side. I nodded, and he carefully fastened the chain around my neck, his fingers lightly brushing my skin, sending a shiver through me. "Winifred," he said, returning to his seat, "these past weeks have been the happiest I've had in years. And I've been thinking, perhaps we should take the next step." "Which one?" I tensed. "Nothing drastic," he smiled. "It's just, my nephew offered me his beach house in Florida for the summer. Pensacola Beach, right on the water. And I thought, you could come with me." I blinked, surprised. "For the whole summer?" "Yes, from July through September. Of course, we could come back here if you wanted to see Daisy, but spend most of our time by the ocean. What do you say?" The thought of 3 months on the coast, away from Tuscaloosa and all its lingering problems, was intoxicating. I envisioned morning walks on the beach, sunsets over the Gulf of Mexico, long, lazy conversations with Arthur on the veranda. "It's very tempting," I admitted, "but I need to think about it." "It's a big step." "Of course," he nodded understandingly. "No pressure. Just know the offer is open." At home, I pondered Arthur's proposal for a long time. Why the hesitation? What held me back? Daisy, of course. But we could visit her. My apartment? I could rent it out. Was it fear of change? The next day, I met Daisy as usual. She noticed the pendant immediately. "It's beautiful," she exclaimed. "Is it from Arthur?" I nodded, surprised by her perceptiveness. "How did you know, Grandma?" She rolled her eyes. "I can see how you change when you talk about him, and how your eyes light up when you come back from your meetings." "I'm not a child." I smiled, touched. "Yes, it's from him. And I have news. He invited me to spend the summer on the Florida coast." "Wow." Her eyes widened. "That's amazing. Did you say yes?" "Not yet," I sighed. "I'm worried about you. We won't be able to see each other as often." "Grandma," she said, her voice serious, "you don't have to give up your happiness because of me. We can video chat every day, and you'll come back to visit, right?" "Of course," I nodded. "No buts," she shook her head firmly. "You deserve this vacation after everything that's happened." I hugged her, tears welling. When did she get so wise? "I have a good grandmother," she winked. I learned a lot from her. That evening, I called Arthur and accepted his offer. His joy was almost palpable, even through the phone. "You won't regret it, Winifred," he promised. "It's going to be a wonderful summer." The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparations. I met with a realtor about a short-term lease for my apartment, sorted through my belongings, deciding what to pack, what to leave. Emily helped me with my summer wardrobe, insisting on new swimsuits and sundresses. At 75? I eyed the bright patterns skeptically. Exactly, she nodded. It's time to wear what you want, not what's appropriate. Daisy was thrilled with my plans, even helping me list places to visit in Florida. Be sure to go to the Gulfarium Marine Aquarium, she advised, and the National Naval Aviation Museum, and, of course, Navarre Beach. It has the whitest sand in the world. I promised to visit them all and bring her souvenirs. A week before my departure, an unexpected message from William arrived. He asked if I could stop by to talk. I agreed, though a knot of tension formed in my stomach. What did he want now? William arrived that evening, looking tired but calmer than I'd seen him recently. Thanks for agreeing to see me, Mom, he said, sinking into a living room chair. Daisy told me you're going away for the summer. Yes, I confirmed, to Florida with a friend. Arthur Smith, he raised an eyebrow. Daisy talks about him a lot. I braced myself for a sarcastic comment, but William surprised me. I'm happy for you, Mom, he said sincerely. You deserve to be happy. Thank you. His reaction truly astonished me. You didn't expect me to support you, he gave a bitter smile. After everything I've done, it's not surprising. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I've come to apologize, Mother. For real. Not to get something in return. The way Penelope and I treated you, it's unforgivable, especially after your generosity. I studied him, searching for sincerity in his eyes. To my surprise, it was there. What's changed, William? I asked quietly. He sighed. A lot of things. Losing the house, of course. But most importantly, I finally saw the man I'd become. What a son, and I'm, ashamed. He ran a hand through his hair, a familiar gesture from his teenage years. When you refused to help with the repairs, I was furious. I thought you were cruel, vindictive. But then, over time, I began to understand. You just set boundaries that I never respected. I remained silent, amazed by his insight. Penelope and I are going through a rough patch, he continued. We're trying to save the marriage, going to counseling, and one of the things we're talking about is our relationship with you, with your money. How we saw you as a source of financial support, not as a person with your own needs and feelings. I appreciate your honesty, I finally said, and I'm glad you're working through your issues. I'm not asking to repair the relationship. He held up his hand. I realize some bridges have been burned. But I wanted you to know that I realized my mistakes, and I'm going to work on myself to be a better person for Daisy, for myself. Maybe someday if you want. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, I smiled softly. Time will tell. He nodded, rising. One more thing. We sold both the house on Wisteria Lane and the old one. We bought a new one, smaller, but in a good neighborhood, not far from Daisy's school. I'm glad, I said sincerely. A new beginning can be helpful. Yes, he said quietly. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. Have a nice vacation in Florida. He headed for the door, then stopped. Mom, he said, I want you to know that whether you ever forgive me or not, I will always love you, and I will always be grateful for everything you've done for me. After he left, I sat in silence for a long time, absorbing his words. They sounded sincere, and a part of me desperately wanted to believe in his remorse. But another part, the more cautious part, reminded me of his past patterns, saying the right things without following through. That evening, I discussed William's visit with Arthur on his balcony, watching the sunset. Do you think he's sincere? Arthur asked after hearing my story. Perhaps, I shook my head. He seemed genuinely remorseful, but I don't know if I can trust my feelings when it comes to William anymore. Trust but verify, Arthur smiled. Give him a chance to prove his sincerity with deeds, not words. Yes, I agreed. Time will tell. And remember, he took my hand. Whatever happens to your relationship with your son, it doesn't define you or your happiness. You have a life, Winifred, and it's just beginning. I squeezed his hand, profoundly grateful for his presence. On the day of my departure, Daisy, Emily, and, to my surprise, William came to the station to see me off. He stood a little apart, shuffling awkwardly, but his very presence was significant. I'll miss you, Grandma. Daisy hugged me tightly. Promise to send pictures every day. I promise, I smiled. And don't forget our Sunday video calls. Of course, she nodded. And I'll come to see you in August, just like we planned. Emily hugged me, whispering, "Enjoy every moment, Winnie, and don't worry about a thing. I'll keep an eye on your apartment." When I approached William, he tentatively extended his hand, but I surprised him with a quick, firm hug. "Thank you for coming," I said. "Thanks for letting me," he replied. "Have a good rest, Mom." Arthur waited by the train car, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. "For you," he said, offering them. The beginning of our adventure. I took the flowers, my heart filling with warmth. Could it be that at 75, everything was truly just beginning? The train pulled away, carrying us south to the Florida coast, to new experiences and opportunities. I looked out the window at the departing platform, Daisy waving, Emily smiling, William standing with a pensive expression. Ahead lay a summer by the ocean, new places, new acquaintances, and a man who saw me not as a source of financial support, not as a burden, but as an equal, a woman worthy of respect and love. I didn't know what the future held, whether William and I would truly repair our relationship, whether Arthur would become more than just a friend, how Daisy's life would unfold when she came of age. But I knew one thing: I would no longer live by other people's expectations. I would not sacrifice my well-being for those who didn't appreciate those sacrifices. I would not allow myself to be manipulated by guilt or obligation. At 75, I had finally learned to put myself first, and that was the most important gift I'd ever given myself. I turned to Arthur, who was dozing in the seat across the aisle, sunlight playing in his gray hair, turning it to silver. On his face, the calm smile of a man at peace with his past, looking forward to the future. It was the same smile I knew, the one that now illuminated my world.